Morning guys, welcome back to the Knitting Expat Podcast channel. My name is Mina and welcome. This is episode 143, I think. I forgot to check before I sat down to record. So today is Sunday the 25th of August and I'm here today really quickly this morning to do a podcast. At least I thought it was going to be quick, but it turns out I have quite a lot to share with you, so we will see how long this takes. My husband Perry has taken our 2.5-year-old little girl out for breakfast this morning so I could have a chance to record this. I just didn't have an opportunity this last week to sit down and record, so I'm doing that now. I have a bit of knitting to share with you, some works in progress and finished objects. I have some spinning, again, works in progress and finished objects, and a fair amount of acquisitions which I was not expecting to have, but some things happened this last week that has meant I have come home with a lot of fluff. So I will share that with you as well. In terms of news and things that are going on, we have a bunch of make-alongs going on in the Ravelry group right now. So we have the Spin and Make Along, which is a spinning and making along. All the rules and everything are in the threads in the group. There's been some amazing projects and chatter so far, so it's really inspirational group to join. You don't have to be a spinner to take part. If you're not a spinner but you want to take part in the making portion, then all you would need to do is use some handspun. Otherwise, and you can obtain that handspun in whatever means is available to you. You can either purchase some handspun, or you can, if you've been gifted handspun by a friend, or you could trade for handspun. Like, there are options there if you wanted to take part. And then we also have the sweater knit along until the end of November, and I have some prizes picked out for that, which I'm actually going to do kind of like an interim prize draw for that one, because there's been a lot of sweaters entered in to that thread, which is really exciting. And finally, we have the Minilicious Pattern Club knit along that's going on, and that's coming up to an end pretty soon. So if you're working on one of the Minilicious Pattern Club patterns, make sure you head on over and enter your finished objects into the relevant threads. So when we get to the end of the knit along and I'm drawing prizes, your entries are there. And one other thing I wanted to mention was a new along that I'm not hosting, but it's being hosted by others in the community, and I wanted to mention it because I think it's a really really fun idea. So it is the POC Maker Long 2019. It is, I've got the information on my phone, so I want to make sure I get it right. It's the POC Maker Long 2019, and it's hosted by Desamore Designs. I hope I've pronounced that correctly. Desamore Designs and the POC Makers Project. And so the information, they just gave me a little blurb so I can get the information correctly. So it says, introducing the POC Make Along, a stress-free crochet and knit event for yarn lovers and BIPOC designers and supporters. And BIPOC stands for Black and Indigenous People of Colour. The project can be made for yourself as a holiday present or for market preps. The only rule that applies is that the designer is Black, Indigenous or a person of colour. The event runs from September 2nd, so next week, to November 4th, but you can join the party anytime. Pick any free or paid pattern from a BIPOC designer, share your progress on Instagram via the BIPOC MAL 2019 hashtag, I'll pop that on the screen, and or on the Desamore Designs Facebook group. You're in the running to win some awesome prizes. You can find all the information and a list of prizes, and they've given a link which I will include in the notes below this. The show notes are below this video on YouTube in the description box. I'll leave a link to that as well. And yeah, so make sure you check that out, and if you're interested, make sure you take part. It sounds like a lot of fun and a really good idea. Anyway, so those were the announcements, and then I'm trying to think what else I had to announce. Yes, so I mentioned last week that I was planning on putting together rolags and stuff like that for sale on Etsy, and I've decided I'm going to go ahead with that. I got some really good feedback. I'm also going to do some little art yarn weaving kits. I guess I'm going to call them like weaving sets. I think not kits because there's no loom coming with it, but it's like little, like my little spinning experiments essentially. They're not, you can knit with them, you can weave with them, you can crochet with them, you can do whatever you want with them, but I think they're well suited for weaving projects. But like I said, you can use them for anything, it's not just for weavers. And then I'm also going to be selling some handspun, and I've also decided I'm going to put together little spinning kits with like a small drop spindle, or with a drop spindle, not necessarily a small one, but a drop spindle, and some fibre prepped in different ways. So my idea is that you get a drop spindle, you'll get some rolags, you'll get like a mini bat, and possibly some roving or top. I haven't quite figured out the third one, but I'd like it to be a selection of 3 different types of fibre preps with a drop spindle. That way you can learn and get a feel for the different types of fibre preps and how that works when you spin. And then you'll also get a chance to figure out which kind of prep you prefer as well, because that's also important. Figuring out your preferred like way of spinning and like prep for spinning. And so I'm also thinking of potentially doing a little like tutorial video on like how to spin those 3 different types of preps. I mean, it's all fairly similar, but just for someone who's like a complete beginner and doesn't know where to begin, I thought that would be quite fun to do. So I'll have more on that note, on that topic a little bit later in the acquisition segment, but I wanted to let you guys know up front that that's the plan, and hopefully I'll get the Etsy shop up and running again towards like mid to end of September. It's just the next couple of weeks are going to be super busy, and I'm probably not going to have time until then to get these things up on Etsy. And I'm going to be using my existing Etsy store, which is kind of like in vacation mode right now, which is the Mina Makes Etsy shop, which was the one I had when I was selling project bags. It just seemed like it just made sense that I would just use that one again. So yeah, that'll be coming soon, which is really exciting. This isn't going to be a regular thing where I have like frequent and regular updates and stuff. This is going to be an as and when I've built up a stock of rolags over time, and then I'll do one big update every now and again throughout the year sort of thing. I imagine it'll only be like 2 or 3 times a year. It's not going to be, like I said, I'm not going to be doing this as like a full-time thing. This is just for fun, bit on the side kind of thing. And if the spinning kits prove to be popular, I'll definitely do more of those in the run up to Christmas, because I think they'd make really great Christmas gifts, or just holiday gifts in general. And yeah, so there's that. Okay, I think we should probably just jump right into finished objects, I guess. So we'll start with finished objects. The first one I have to show you, actually the first 2 I have to show you, you have seen before, but they are now completely completed. So the first up is this hat. This is the bulky hat that I knit out of junk yarn, and I've just popped the pom-pom on the top, which is really cute and fluffy, and I think it really completes it. This is going to be part of my gift knits collection, which will be coming out starting from next month, and I'll talk a bit more about that in a second. But this is the only one I'm going to show you from that collection, because this is going to be the first pattern that comes out. I'm working on the others for the collection, but I don't want to show them to you yet, because I want that to be a bit of a surprise. So what my idea is with this collection is that it is a collection. You can purchase all of them together, or you can purchase the patterns individually, and that'll be the case from the very beginning. But the patterns are going to be released one at a time. So it kind of works like my club, where if you buy it up front before all the patterns are released, you get it at a cheaper price. But at the same time, each pattern as it's released within the collection, you can also purchase individually, so you don't have to buy it as a collection in order to get each pattern until a certain date, which is kind of how the clubs have worked. And then every week or so, I haven't figured out exactly the timings, but every week to 2 weeks there'll be a new pattern that comes out that goes into the collection, which you can still always buy individually. But then once the collection has been completed, and there's going to be 5 patterns in this collection, once the collection has been completed, the price for the whole collection will go up a little bit. The price for the collection will always be cheaper than the price for each individual pattern put together. So if you buy all 5 patterns individually, it will always cost you more than if you bought 5 patterns together in the collection. It's just a little bit cheaper for the collection if you buy it before all of the patterns have been released. I hope that was not confusing. I hope that made sense. But yeah, so this is going to be the first one. It's going to be a bulky hat, and I can't remember the name I picked for it, but I did pick out all the names for all the different patterns, and they're all like within a theme, which I'm really quite happy about, because I was struggling to come up with an idea for naming these. But yeah, so this is going to be the first one. And then the next finished object that I have to show you, again, like I mentioned, it was already a finished object before in terms of knitting. This is the little Double Dutch Cardigan that I've knit for my friend who is pregnant. She's due in December, so I've knit like the smaller size. But I realised after the fact that the skein of yarn I was using had, even though it was the right weight, had less yardage in the skein than the pattern called for the smaller size. So I ended up not doing the shawl collar and just doing a regular flat collar. I also didn't put in buttonholes. I decided to do poppers instead, because I thought that might be a bit more practical with a little baby than buttons. And also I just wanted to give it a go. So I just popped on little poppers, and I've sewed them on carefully so that the yarn that I use to sew them on doesn't show through on the right side. So these are the poppers on the wrong side, and then on the right side you can't see any of the yarn that I use to stitch it on. So yeah, quite happy with how this has turned out. I only put 3 because it's a little baby. They don't need a whole lot. And it's also just makes it a little bit easier and quicker to get the cardigan on. And the yarn I use for this is by Into The Whirled. It is on their Pokoku DK, and it's the Mildly Amusing Colourway, which I also use for my double Dutch, for my mix and match cardigan. And the yarn for this one, I forgot to mention, was junk yarn on her burlesque bulky base, and it's in the Hepatia colourway. I have 2 more finished objects to share with you, which is really exciting. First up is my first pair of handspun socks, which I'm really excited about. These aren't actually technically my first pair of handspun socks. They're my first pair of handspun, like socks out of handspun by me. And so I just did a really simple texture pattern. I'm not planning on writing this one up because it's like a variation on the blueberry waffle, so I don't really see the point. But it's just a really fun knit pearl texture. It's just some added interest, and then you can see how the yarn was striping in the feet, which is really quite cool. You can see it everywhere else, but it's a little bit clearer in the stockinette. But yeah, so I was really excited by this, and this is the other one. And yeah, it was just really fun. Just really fun to knit these up and see how the stripes were going to come out, and to see how, you know, how yarn that I spun knit up as a pair of socks, which is quite exciting. Actually, I'm sorry, I actually have 5 finished objects, not 4, so we'll get to that. And then the next one I have to show you finished, and I don't think I had this finished last week. Maybe I did, I can't remember now. But it is my colourwork pullover, and this is actually, I don't know if I've ever told you the name for this one, but this is going to be called the Forage Sweater, like foraging type of thing. And then it's got the high-low hem, which I'm really loving at the moment. It's a cropped-ish pullover. I mean, it's cropped on me, but if someone else was knitting this length, it might be more of a regular length because I'm quite tall. So this is cropped on me, but it will be almost like a normal-ish length on someone who is shorter or more average height than I am. I'm about 5'10". So, you know, if you're about 5 inches shorter than me, which is more of an average height, then this will probably be closer to a normal length. But you can obviously crop it or lengthen it as much as you'd like, because there's no shaping in the body. So once you split for the sleeves, you can knit it as long or as short as you'd like. Obviously, if you knit it longer, that just affects the amount of yardage you need. And my sleeves look like weirdly long, but I'm again tall, so I have long arms, and it works out really well when I wear it. And I like my sleeves to be quite long, so that's what I went with. And the yarn I use for this is Lavender Lune Yarn Co in her MCN DK, which I didn't actually realise this was MCN until I got it home and looked at the label. So the colours I used, the main colour is Cecil's Armchair. The green is Feelin Leafy. This yellow is Raw Honey. And then this neutrally beige creamy colour is Acorn Dust, which is really lovely. And I actually have enough of each of these colours left to do another project with. And I think I'm going to do like a companion, like colourwork cowl. But I'm not sure if it's going to be ready to be released at the same time as the sweater, unfortunately. So we will see. Maybe that will come out afterwards and it will go into like a bundle or something. I'm not sure. But anyway, this will be coming out in October, like middle of October, just before Rhinebeck. Unfortunately, I had planned on this like being published in time for it to be like as a Rhinebeck sweater type of thing, so publishing around now. But things just took a little bit longer than I'd hoped in getting that pattern written up and knit up and stuff. It's just life got away from me a little bit this year, so it's coming out a little bit later than planned, but it's going to be out in time for Rhinebeck. So if you love it and you're coming to Rhinebeck, you can always shop for yarn while you're there. And also, if you are coming to Indie Untangled, you can see the sample in person. I'm going to be hanging out at the Lavender Lune booth at Indie Untangled for the day. I'm not sure I've ever like officially announced it on the podcast, but I'm going to Rhinebeck this year. That's kind of like my roundabout way of telling you guys. I'm going to be going to Rhinebeck this year, and like I said, I'm going to be helping out with Sam at her booth in the Untangled, and then obviously I'll be at Rhinebeck as well for the weekend. And yeah, so like I said, if you're coming, you can check out the sample in person, and if you're not coming to Indie Untangled, then you can obviously shop for yarn at Rhinebeck or anywhere else that you'd like. And I'm pretty sure Sam will be having kits or pre-orders or something for the sweater as well when it comes to be released. And my last finished object is still in its project bag because I only just finished this last night, so it's not been blocked. It looks a little bit weird, but it's Leila's first pair of handspun socks. How darn adorable are these? So this is yarn that I spun out of Fibre from Witch Crafty Lady, which Leila was gifted this fibre at Fibre East, and it's kind of like a mix of pinks and reds. Leila loves it, and she keeps asking for her socks. So I finished these off yesterday. I actually only started them on Thursday, and I finished them yesterday. They're very quick knit. I used my usual 2.25mm needles. They look huge, but they actually fit her feet really well. And I did the same texture pattern on the leg of her socks as I did on my handspun socks, but I decided to stop it up just on the leg and just do the foot and stockinette, because I imagine she's going to be wearing these with wellies because they're a little bit too thick to wear with her regular shoes, and I just didn't want it to be uncomfortable on her foot, just in case. You know, she's still a child, I'm not sure what she's going to find comfy and not, but I put a bit of patterning on the leg and just stockinette on the body, on the foot. She really loves it. She tried one on yesterday before she went to bed when I'd finished it, and it fit really well, so I finished up the second one to match. And yeah, it's just really cute. These really didn't take a lot of time at all, and I had this much left over from like a 50 odd gram skein for her, so that's really good. And then I have the other half of the fibre, which I spun as a 2-ply. So this was spun as a chain ply, and I spun the other half as a 2-ply, and this is, I'm going to turn into a hat for her, so she's going to have matching socks and hat. And then if I have any yarn left over after all that, maybe I'll make her some little mitts or something. But she really likes this, and she's so yeah, she was really excited that I was knitting her socks. And I realise now that I actually only have one work in progress to show you, because everything else is secret designs that I'm not sharing yet, mainly because they are for the gift club. Oh, and the other work in progress I have is Perry's sweater, which I still haven't touched since the last time I showed it to you, so I didn't bring it up to show again. So my last work in progress is almost a finished object, and that is the cowl. This is the infinity cowl that I'm doing as part of the Knit With Me series, and I had this ready, I had this at this stage last weekend, but I just haven't had time this week to sit down and film the tutorial for, film the last part of the Knit With Me, which is the finishing. Now originally I had said that I was going to do this as like a double loop cowl, but as you can see, it's not long enough to do that. And because I don't want it to be just one big open loop, I mean, you could have it this way, but that's not what I wanted. I wanted it to be nice and snug around the neck. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this into like an inside out, like a different, like this. Kind of get the idea. And then it will go on your head and it will sit like that. And then you can just turn it inside out to have this one color scheme on the outside and the other on the inside, or you know, so you can switch it around. So you can either have like the greens and yellows on the outside, or you can flip it around and have the oranges and browns on the outside. And so the way I see it is like this is more of a spring. This is the spring side, and this is like the autumnal side. So you can change it with the seasons or however you'd like. So my idea now is I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to Kitchener the cast on stitches with the live stitches and Kitchener it around, because this is on like a provisional waste yarn, and then it'll be finished. So that's what I'm going to be recording later, hopefully today, if not then during the week. And then this cowl will be finished, it'll be ready for a block, and then that's done. Another handspun project, which is really exciting. And I'm also, like I said before, even I mean, I will write up a pattern for this, but to be quite honest, if you watch the videos gives you the whole pattern anyway. You don't really need a written pattern, but for those who want it, I will write one up anyway. It will link back to the videos because I think all the techniques are shown in the video. So if you are newer to knitting, then the videos will probably help you more. Anyway. Okay, so that's it for the knitting content that I have that I can show you, and we will move on to spinning. So in terms of finished objects for spinning, I can't remember if I showed you these two last time or not, so I thought I'd quickly show you again. So the base fibres in both of these were from John Arbon Textiles, from their Harvest Hues range. So the red one is pomegranate and the green one is sycamore. And the green one was actually blended with some mystery fibre that I think was alpaca, which is the white that is showing through in here. And the red was blended with a few different fibres from a camelid sampler set from Hilltop Cloud, which was like the baby camel, the llama, and alpaca. One of the alpacas, not the Surrey alpaca, the other kind of alpaca that I can't remember the name of. But I blended some of each of those with the reds. So they were both turned into rolags. And these were giant rologs, and this was just regular rolags. And I spun them and two-plied them, and I did them individually, obviously not at the same time. But the interesting thing is, my grist for both these yarns is spot on, almost exactly the same, which I found really fascinating. I spun both of these long draw, or like, you know, my style of long draw, which I've shown in a video before, which I'll probably do another video, like a standalone, like tutorial style video of how I do supported long draw separately. So the green one was 143 grams, and I got 268 yards or 245 meters. And the pomegranate was 115 grams, and I got 215 yards or 197 meters. So comparing them like that is a little bit hard to do because they're different weights and obviously have different yardages as a result. But if I extrapolate the yardage information and like to see how much I would get out of just 100 grams had it been spun exactly the same. So 100 grams of the green gives me 171 meters. 100 grams of the red gives me 171 meters, which means my grist was the same for both of these. I was getting the same yardage per 100 grams out of both of these yarns, which is really quite fascinating because they were both spun long draw, not intentionally spun to be the same. I wasn't trying to get them to be the same. So this is what this tells me, is that this is my fairly what's the word, not standard, like my default. This is pretty much my default long draw style of spinning. Gives me this sort of grist, because I wasn't trying with either of them to get a particular thickness, to get a particular weight of yarn. I was just spinning for fun. So that's interesting and good to know that my default sort of long draw spin yields a worsted weight-ish kind of yarn, which is good. And yeah, I think actually this would be a really fun sort of stripy jumper for like Christmas maybe, or some other sort of stripy project. They aren't high contrast because their saturation, their hue, their color value, sorry, is very similar. If you look at it through a black and white filter on your phone, these are pretty much exactly the same. I mean, I'll show you. So, because looking at them, you'd think they'd have good contrast because they're different colors and they stand out against each other, but actually they really wouldn't in black and white. So, oh, let me see if I can show you what I mean. So you see, when you look through it in black and white, there's not a whole, there we go, I'm trying to get the glare off. There's not a whole lot of contrast between them. Sorry, let's get the phone to focus, there we go. Yeah, you can see there's not a whole lot of contrast between them in black and white. Whereas, for example, if I was holding up one of them, yeah, that might be better. See, these have good contrast. There we go. These have good contrast. These would stand out in color work with each other. So if I was to spin these two skeins together, you'd get good you'd get good contrast with them. So that's how you use the black and white filter if you're trying to decide for color work, especially what colors would go well together. So looking at these, like, it would look fine for stripes or something else, but for color work it wouldn't really pop. Like, you wouldn't necessarily see the contrast super well because they're quite similar in value. But like the gray is much lighter in value, so with either of these it would pop really nicely. That's something interesting. I hope that made sense. I wasn't actually expecting to show you that, so it kind of came out of nowhere. Another finished spin that I have to show you is this, and I'm so happy with this, and I know exactly what this is going to be. And these were rolags that I made out of a set from Hilltop Cloud, sorry, Spin Jones, not Hilltop Cloud, Spin Jones, and it's their, I think it was like Sail Away set, I can't remember what it was called, but it was a selection of I think 5 or 6 different colors. It was about 140 grams, sorry, I can't remember now, but I had 120 grams finished out of this, and I turned them into rolags, and I ended up spinning them fairly thick actually, not super thin, and then I chain plied it, and as you can see the chain plies come out to be quite a thick, I'd say it's like an Aran bulky kind of thickness. It's quite heavy weight, which is fine, it's what I wanted, but it's going to be nice like self-striping yarn because that's how I spun it. And I got 142 yards and 130 meters out of the finished yarn, which is perfect for what I want it to be, and I am so excited to get to work on that project. And it's actually going to be a knit with me series as well. It's the kind of project that is going to be well suited to having like a tutorial, because it's a little bit easier to explain visually what's going on than writing it out. Although it's going to be a written up pattern, this is going to be part of a handspun collection, and it's going to be, as much as possible, the patterns in this handspun collection are going to be like an any gauge kind of pattern. So you, unfortunately, you may not like this, but you will have to do a small gauge swatch at the beginning just to be able to determine your stitch and row gauge for these patterns to be able to work, because your the patterns will have like very simple formulas that you can just plug your numbers into, and it will tell you how many stitches to cast on, how many rows to knit, all that sort of stuff based on your gauge, because it's meant for handspun, and handspun is not all the same. So, you know, just because I have, you know, a bulky weight handspun for me might be very different to someone else's bulky handspun, so that's important. But yeah, it's going to be super versatile pattern, which I'm really excited about. I've already knit up one sample, and based off of that I've made a few adjustments, and this is going to be the one for the pattern. I just can't wait. My next spinning project to show you is kind of a work in progress. So I've decided, I picked up a bunch of this Corriedale fibre from Witch Crafty Lady, or like wool tops at Fibre East, and I think I might have been calling it Perrendale before, but it's actually Corriedale. So I had these 4 colours that I picked up. Ooh. This like grey, purple, chartreusey green and dark foresty green, and they also picked up 2 bumps of this, which is the Corriedale mixed with silk. So I've got 2 of these ones. So my idea was to spin it all up and to use them all together in a project, and I was aiming for like a DK-ish weight. So I still have, like I said, 2 of the grey and this foresty green to spin up, so that's like 3 out of this. I've done half of them, and so these 3 I've spun, and they're not finished and they haven't been set, but I'm getting, these were a worsted spin for the most part, and I'm getting anywhere from like a DK to a worsted Aran weight sort of yarn at the moment, which is fine. I'm thinking something colourworky, I'm not entirely sure yet, maybe stripes, who knows. I was hoping to have enough yardage at the end to do a sort of a jumper maybe, or a cardigan, but I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough yardage at the end. We'll see. Either way, it'll be a really fun project, and I can't wait to share the finished yarn with you guys. So I'm halfway through this one. Hopefully, maybe even by next week, I will have all of them spun up and finished and set, and then I can show you the whole set together. So that's it for my spinning progress at the moment, and trying to figure out what else it was about, if there was anything else around these that I wanted to tell you. I don't think so, but we will now move on to acquisitions, which, like I said, is a surprising amount considering I wasn't expecting to have so much acquisitions. So this kind of goes into week in review as well, but last week, so on Thursday of this week just gone, I went to visit Almas, who is the dyer behind Witch Crafty Lady. I went to visit her at her house, and we hung out for the day. We just had a really nice spinning day in her garden, and when I got there, she asked me if I wanted to have a go at dyeing some fibre, and I was like, yeah, why not? I've never dyed anything with acid dyes before, so I thought it would be fun to have a play with some fibre, and this is what I came up with. So I dyed these 2 braids. They were in separate pots, but I sort of dyed them together, so they're similar, sort of, the colourway is basically the same dyes went onto them. It's really interesting because some of the dyes, like, you really can't see the colours in here anymore because it's just all melded together. And we'd pre-braided the fibre before we soaked them and then put them into dye, so you get a lot of these white spots from the resist from them having been in a braid, which I think is quite fun as well. And they kind of remind me of like potpourri, like wilted flowers or like autumnal leaves as well, which is really fun. So I'm thinking I might spin these and do them as a 2-ply and have like a nice big 200-gram skein. This is Corriedale, and yeah, it took the dye really well, and it was really fun to dye up. And then because Almas is super generous, she also sent me home with other fibre. She would not let me leave without it, so I took it. This one she gave to me for Leila, which I will give you one guess as to why, because it's bright red. And as soon as Leila saw this, she was like, red one, mine please. So these are for her, and I think the idea is going to be to spin these up and to knit Leila a jumper out of it, or a cardigan or something. And this is Superwash Polworth, which is so squishy. I absolutely love Polworth, it is so lovely. And so I'll be spinning this up to knit something for Leila, possibly maybe a Christmas jumper or something to give to her at Christmas time, maybe, because I gave her some knits for Christmas last year, and it would be nice to kind of keep up with that tradition. And then Almas gave me a bunch of like random bits of fibre that she's dyed to use with my blending board. And so these have all been slightly overcooked, as she put it, but they're still usable for like blending purposes. You just maybe wouldn't want to just spin from them straight away. They need to be like puffed up and floofed out and stuff. And so this is a mix of alpaca and silk. So I have them in like a bunch of different colours. We have this sort of like pinky red, we have this yellow, this little bit of purple, and then more of a mauvey purple. And then she also gave me some locks that she's been dyeing, and this is just a little bit of green, like foresty green sort of locks, which is really quite fun. These would be really fun in like a little mini bat or something. So that was those. And then she also sent me home with these two braids. Honestly, she was so generous. It was not necessary, but I also appreciate it. These are also on Superwash Polworth. These beautiful like purple and green braids with hints of other colours in there, and lots of like whites as well, which will make these quite like pastel when spun up, depending on how you spin them. I'm planning on actually spinning these quite thick to get like a nice nice round sort of like 2-ply yarn, because I feel like that will keep the colours a little bit more bold, as it were. I won't mute them down as much, whereas if I spun it fine, it would really mute out the colours and blend them together a lot more, and so you're more likely to get a bit of a pastel. I might actually do some sampling and show you the difference. That'd be really cool. I might do some sampling with this actually and show you the difference between spinning it fine and 2-plying it versus spinning it thicker and then 2-plying it to get a chunkier yarn. That'd be really fun actually. I'll do that as a separate video, and so you guys can see the difference, and in terms of being able to look at a braid and think, this is what's going to happen if I spin it thin versus this is what's going to happen to the colours if I spin it thicker, and that will help you decide in terms of how you might want to spin a braid that looks like this with lots of white, especially braids that have lots of white in them, because I feel like the white really mutes down the colours when it's spun, depending on how you spin it. So that'd be quite cool. I think I might do that actually. That'd be a really fun experiment. And so yeah, that was everything that I got from Almas, which, like I said, super generous, completely unwarranted, but very generous nonetheless, and I'm incredibly grateful. And so then on Friday, when I was home with Leila, we were home in the morning anyway, I just thought, I've got some fibre that I bought ages ago with the intention of dyeing with Leila over the summer. Specifically, actually, I was planning on doing it during Tour de Fleece, but it just never worked out. We were too busy, there's stuff always going on, and I thought, you know what, I've got a bit of time, we can do this morning, on Friday. So Perry kept Leila occupied for a little bit while I got stuff prepped in the kitchen. And then this is also going to be a separate video. I've already recorded obviously the doing of it. I just need to film the ending, and then that'll be a separate video that goes up, which is like dyeing fibre with my toddler. And we use food dyes, so it's all safe. And we hand painted. I was going to do like low immersion dyeing, but then I figured hot pans, little children probably don't mix very well. And the fibre I had was a Superwash Polworth and nylon. I got 200 grams, but when it came, when I pulled it out of the bag, it was already in 2 chunks. So obviously one is bigger than the other. So we dyed them in separate pans, and we used a mix of red, green, yellow, blue, and a bit of brown in there as well. So yeah, this is what we came up with. Really fun, colourful braids. I'm thinking this one I might give to my mum to spin on her drop spindle for more practice, and this was dyed by Leila, so I think she'd really like that. And this one I will probably spin up and make socks for myself and Leila, because I don't know how much this is, but it's more than 100 grams. So yeah, it's 135 grams. So I should definitely be able to get a pair of socks for myself and for Leila out of these, which will be really fun. And because it's, like I said, it's superwash, polymorph and nylon, it will be good for socks. It keeps coming out. So yeah, that was that dyeing experiment, which went really well. And it's not really an acquisition because I already had the fibre, but we did something with it, so now it's a bit different. And the last thing I have in acquisitions is going back to the whole spinning kits that I was talking to you guys about earlier. And I wanted to try out a couple of spindles to figure out which ones I wanted to include as part of the kit. So I just wanted something basic, but something that worked really well. So I placed an order for a couple of spindles, and I've been trialing them out. I tried them out yesterday, and they both work really well. They both spin incredibly well, and they spin for a long time, which is great. And so this is obviously the smaller one, and this is the larger one. I'm thinking I'm going to include the smaller one in the kits because the larger one is actually significantly heavier, and in terms of weights for packaging and to make postage as affordable as possible, I think I'm going to go with the smaller ones. The smaller ones are very versatile. You can spin singles, you can ply them, but also the smaller ones, because they're lighter, if you wanted to, you could also learn to spin finer yarns on them, whereas the heavier ones, with finer yarns, it can be a little bit tricky. It can be done, but it's a bit trickier. So I've just been playing around with these, and I spun up these singles yesterday, and I also plied the pink one yesterday as well. I just need to apply this one. It was just fun. I just wanted to try them out and make sure they worked well, that I was happy with them. And I'm still looking at a couple of other potential sources for spindles, but if those fall through, I would be very happy to go with one of these, with the small one of these. I think it's very well made. It's very simple. Like I said, it's to the point. It's nothing fancy, but it does the job really well, and it'd be a great first spindle for anybody. I mean, I'm not a huge spindle spinner, but like I got on with these really fine, really well. And when I was placing an order for these, I also picked up a couple of things of fibre as well, because why not? And I think this one was called Winter Wonderland, and I can't remember what this one was called, something or other. I'm not sure how well you can see. I don't want to open the bags right now, but it's a mix of carded merino and silk. So it's a sort of, it's like a carded prep. I'm not sure if it's like a bat or what in there, but you know what, let's open one up and have a look. Look at the coloured one. I'm not sure how this is prepped. It must be like a roving type prep. I don't imagine it's a bat in here, but yeah, it's a roving kind of prep. Oh wait, no. Okay, just because I was tearing it there, but yeah, it's kind of like this. And I'm planning on turning these into Rolex maybe, or something, but I just really like the mix of colours and like the tweedy nature of the colours. Yeah, it's really lovely actually. I really like this one. And the silvery grey one is the same as well. So that will be fun to play around with. And yeah, and that's it for acquisitions. It's very fibre heavy. Again, like I said, I wasn't expecting most of this stuff. The only thing I was really expecting was this to come in this week. So that took me by surprise. But as we're talking about stuff that's been going on this week, I might as well just slip right into weeks in review. In terms of other things that's been going on, like I said, on Thursday I went to see Almas. Last weekend we were up in London for the weekend, which was really nice. My cousin was over from Boston with his wife, and we got to hang out with them for a bit. Hadn't seen them in ages. And then work week, normal stuff. Thursday, like I said, I went to see Almas. Friday was a day with Leila. We went to the park. We just sort of enjoyed the weather. It's been very hot. And then yesterday Ellie of Skein Knits came down from London to hang out for the day, which was really nice. We went around town, we went and had breakfast, or a really late breakfast, and then we went to the park. There was like some sort of festival going on, so we sat down, listened to the music, had some ice cream, and then we came home and like retreated from the heat because it was so hot. But yeah, we hung out all day. It was just really nice to catch up with her and just be able to chat and talk about stuff. And Leila played and eventually warmed up to Ellie. She took a while, but she got there in the end. And it's just because she hasn't met Ellie too many times. And then yeah, and then today, like I said, Perry's just taken Leila out this morning. This is our bank holiday weekend, so we're off on, Perry's off on Monday as well. It's our last long weekend of the year, and it's proving to be a nice and warm one. So later this afternoon we're going to go around to Perry's parents and have a barbecue. And then tomorrow I think we're meeting up with some friends in the morning, and then probably doing something else in the afternoon. I think we're going to, there's a festival near Perry's parents happening in their little village, and so I think we're going to go check that out in the afternoon. All in all, we have a pretty packed weekend, and I'm looking forward to it. And then next weekend we're off to London again for the weekend. Leila's going to be staying at my parents'. Perry and I have a night away, still in London, but we have a night away booked on the Saturday night, which would be really nice. And then on this, so next weekend is the start of all of the birthdays in our families. So between the two families, we have 6 birthdays in the space of 4 weeks. It's crazy. So next weekend is Perry's birthday, then 2 days after is my dad's birthday, then it's my mum's birthday, then it's Perry's mum, then his sister, and then it's me. All within the space of like 3 or 4 weeks. It's actually ridiculous. So between the 31st of August and the 24th of September, in the space of 25 days, we have 6 birthdays. So it's quite busy. And also there's the Oslo Knitting Festival, which I'm going to be teaching at, which is really exciting. You can still get tickets to some of my classes. I'm going to be teaching 2 sock classes. One is how to knit socks 2 at a time. One is how to knit the mini heel flap and garter, and sorry, not garter, and German shore heel, and also the pattern hacking class that I taught at Vogue as well, which is like how to adapt a sweater pattern depending on your gauge, like making minor modifications to get better fit, or to, you know, how to pick which size. So those are the classes I'm going to be teaching. So if you are interested and you are coming to Oslo for the knitting festival, make sure you sign up for any classes that you're interested in. I will leave a link down below to the festival website. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers everything, to be honest. I'm not sure if I've missed out anything else. I think I've covered everything, to be quite honest. It's going to be a shorter episode this week, which I'm quite happy about, because I'm happier with doing these shorter episodes. They're less daunting to sit down and film, and also I'm hoping to be able to get back to doing a video like every week-ish, like every week to 2 weeks rather than every 2 to 3 weeks, which is kind of what I'd fallen into. I'm also vlogging this weekend. I forgot to mention that. I'm vlogging this weekend. So I vlogged yesterday. I'm going to be I didn't vlog a lot yesterday, to be quite honest, but I'm going to be vlogging bits and pieces over this weekend, and that'll be going up next week as well at some point. The Knit With Me series is going to go up next week at some point as well, once that's finished, although it's going to be in 3 parts, so it's going to be 3 separate videos. I'm debating whether or not to wait until I have the pattern ready to publish at the same time to upload those, or if I should upload the videos and then publish the pattern whenever I get a chance. It's going to be a free pattern anyway, and like I said, the video gives you all of the information. I'll probably just write up a really basic pattern with all the information in it, but the idea is that you will, if you are a real beginner and you don't really know a lot of the terms or the techniques, then you'll be watching the videos to get it. But if you're a more advanced knitter, then you'll probably get it all from the pattern and you won't necessarily need to watch the video. Yeah, I think I might do that. Just try and get a pattern up to go with the videos when the videos are published at the same time. I think that makes more sense. And then what else? That's it really. I've got the Forage Sweater that is going to go out to testers next week. I've already sent out the test call email to everyone who's on my testing list. So thank you so much to all of you who've replied already. I'll be sending that pattern out on Tuesday to the successful applicants. I still need to pick the people. And then yeah, my Yorkville sweater is going to be coming out in early mid-September, which I still need to get pattern photos for. I was actually planning on doing it this last week, but it was just far too warm to even think about going outside with knitwear on. Like, it was actually ridiculous. So I'm hoping this next week is going to be a little bit cooler and I'll be able to go out somewhere and get some photos done. I've got a bunch of patterns that need to be photographed now. It's actually getting a bit ridiculous. Otherwise I will probably take some up to London this weekend and maybe get my mum to help me model some of the patterns. The problem is with the garments that I have to get model photos of, like, I have to wear them because they're knit for me. My mum can't wear them. I mean, she could wear them, but the sleeves would just be far too long and the body would be far too long on her. Like, it just won't look right because it's not knit for her proportions, and she's smaller than me, she's shorter than me, and she's also smaller than me, so the proportions just won't look right. it would just look really weird on her, so it wouldn't be the best way to do it. But she could model the accessories, and that's probably what I'll get her to do. I'll get her to model the accessories for me and get those photos taken at least, because I am running out of time. I find, even though it's weird because I absolutely love photography, but I find the photography of my finished objects something really difficult to do, because I'm not really a product photographer, for one thing, and two, like I said, because most of my knitting projects are knit for me, they're not knit for others, or then like the adult size ones, I tend to knit garments for myself rather than for other people necessarily. I will sometimes, but my designs tend to be designed for me. It's hard for me to be in the photos, and it's hard for me to direct someone else to take the photos that I want. I'm really bad at that. I'm really bad at communicating that. So Perry hates doing it because I always end up like having a go at him about it because he's not doing it right, but I also can't explain to him exactly what I want. It's very difficult, so I'd rather be the one behind the camera. You know what, I just need to get a mannequin. That's what I need. I need to get a mannequin. I've just come to that realization. They're far too expensive though, I can't afford that right now. But yeah, anyway, we will see. I'm also considering with the next couple of patterns that I publish in September to try out a pay what you can option when I publish them, just to see how that goes. I've heard some positive things about other designers who have tried that option, and I'm curious to see how that works out. So I'm considering giving that a go for a couple of designs that I'm publishing next month, and giving it a month or two just to see how that works out compared to other designs that I've published and how those have fared. And if I find that the results are favourable, then I might consider switching to that method altogether, or maybe just for some designs. I'm not sure yet. We will see. I hope you enjoy what you see here. I hope you stick around, and I look forward to seeing you guys again soon. Okay, bye.